So I'm doing things differently. I'm going to actually shuffle on camera because I have something that I want to talk about. So I'm going to see if I can kind of channel this energy specifically. I'm hearing that a lot of people are not going to appreciate it. The real story. But I'm also seeing a very gentle person, like a very gentle child. His energy was that of a very gentle child. Okay. I think we can stop. Maybe I'll do like one more. There's a lot of karma associated with this person. There's actually people, yeah, that's the karma. There's people who are now in this lifetime paying for the karma of what happened to him, because how can I put this? I don't know if it's like through generational karma of like people who were connected with the families that ended his life, or if this is like people who believe, if you believe in reincarnation, maybe that's kind of part of it. So reincarnated souls are now paying off the karma. But this is his energy, the star. That was his energy. It's very pure. For some reason, I believe he was a Pisces, but I don't know if there's a mention of his star sign. Let's see if there's anything about. So I'm just getting the 9 of Cups. I mean, that is water, though. Yeah, and that's similar energy to the star because it's about wishes coming true. There's like a chosen one who had really special gifts. And special abilities because of innocence too. Like the innocence was a thing that people were drawn to. Both bad and good people. It's a reflection, so it's kind of like a mirror. It's like a Velvet Underground song. I'll be your mirror, reflect what you are in case you don't know. Right, so that's what he was for the people. But I don't think that his effect or his power was recognized in his lifetime. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that I can kind of glean from his story. I think it's an important story for our current timeline. And that's why I'm bringing it out. And then I would also like to look at some of the books that I have. I'm being gentle with how I'm reading this because I think there's a lot that's triggering for some reason this person. I mean, I know why obviously now, but originally, why did he have such a big hold over people? Okay, so he was sharing his light with the world, which is a star. That's why he has the star here. I pray before I pay, something about karma again, and then I can find peace in every breath. So his message was that of peace and surrendering his desires, surrendering his own desires. My happiness can be measured by the level of my faith and love. Yeah, just like a really spiritual, very enlightened soul. It's almost like a Buddhist. It's interesting, like Okay, okay. This is where it starts coming up because his journey. I actually want to ask about. Oh, interesting. I don't know if I understand it actually, but there is kind of a knowledge that came through his father. And I'm trying to understand what his father's role. Yeah, that's that karma again. Maybe his father died. I don't actually know. Probably other people know better than I do. Okay, so we're still running. So I got an interesting message there as I was trying to fix my laptop. It just kind of it shut down. It does sometimes, but not completely. It just has some issues. The message I got was that his karma was that he was carrying the light of the world. The world was going through so much darkness, and he was carrying the light. And by carrying the light, he was reflecting, right? Because I was saying he became a reflective surface. I was saying something about I'll be your mirror, reflect what you are in case you don't know. And that was triggering to people who were engaged in evil. They were doing bad things and they were seeing his light. There's a woman, so maybe this is Mary. I just want to see if there's anything I can glean on the internet from her, because I don't know a lot about her. She was a woman who, according to the 4 canonical gospels, traveled with him as one of his followers and was a witness to his crucifixion. Crucifixion? And resurrection. Okay. I don't know if I believe in the resurrection, but she was a witness to what happened to him. So I think this might be her energy. It's a strong feminine. There's a lot of feminine energy around him, around his aura. Maybe he was more connected with women, which I think at the time would also be something that would be frowned upon. I don't know how deep homosexuality went. Like, would it go to biblical times? I feel like, oh yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah, yeah. So there was an awareness of like homosexuality and it being like sinful, obviously, yeah. That was part of that timeline. So maybe something about hanging out with women. I was just thinking of like his hair being long, but there was no concept of that. That was not a concept during biblical times, like hairstyle. But yeah, like something about that, about hanging out with women and having this strong feminine energy around him. Right, and then a lot of sadness, a lot of grief. So this was a woman who went through a lot of grief. Okay, so they were in love. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I'm seeing here. There was a relationship of love. And I'm also seeing the 10 of Cups underneath. And it says she was his follower, so I'm seeing this. This could be like a fan, like almost like a crush kind of feeling. A groupie. Can I say that? I don't know. I begin my day with love, right? There's a lot of emphasis on love, on light, on peace, prayer, surrendering desires. It's like becoming very humble. I let my intimate relationships be my greatest learning devices for spiritual growth and healing. So I think her role, I just don't know a lot about this, but I'm supposing her role was a lot greater than people realize. True abundance is an inside job. I make decisions from a place of intuition and power. Wow. Wow. Yeah, so that's something about his connection with her or with other women. He would have like a very feminine spirit, very feminine soul. And I think that was frowned upon in some way at the time, right? Like historically speaking. And also we're talking about this like resurrection or whatever, her witnessing. This is a card of rebirth, like people coming back to life after death. So, and I was talking about it being karma. And so I feel like his karma was really heavy because he was carrying the light. But then the people who executed him or were involved with his execution, even people who like spoke negatively about him or were somehow involved, as well as his parents. Like there's generations of karma that are now being held accountable. The story is returning. The story is like a story that's every couple of millennia, it kind of returns, it resurrects, it cycles through. And I think a lot of people speak about like the rebirth, his rebirth, him coming back to life, but it's not actually that. It's just people who have a similar vibration who then also go through prosecution. Like I was watching a documentary about Bob Marley and his life story and just the things that he went through. Yeah. I mean, this isn't about Bob Marley, but I think there's a similar vibration there. Because I noticed, yeah, this was what I was going to say, justice. I noticed that Bob Marley had a really strong kind of message of justice. So his mother's energy is the Six of Wands. And somehow his mother is connected with him being the person that he was. The way that she raised him, the way that she taught him to be, was like unconditional love and light. And there wasn't really a message that was, yeah, that's his oppression. Wow. But there's also, with the Nine of Coins, there's also a lot of independence. So he was living a very free life. Almost like, you know, the hippies in the 60s, the way people looked at how the hippies were living. I'm going to see if I can pull out like these feminine goddess messages. So there's an energy here of someone who is very light in his spirit. Okay, I'm going to step out of camera for a minute. Yeah, an energy of someone who's very light in his spirit, but had a really thick, like it had a really heavy cross to bear, right? That's kind of, yeah, that's funny. Okay. So, I don't know if I'm retelling it. I thought I was going to give some kind of information that people didn't know about him. I guess the biggest information is that he had a heavy karma because he was carrying other people's light in a time of darkness. And that it's a repeating story, that this thing keeps happening through society, through history. We always have this one person who carries the light during dark times. And then people prosecute them because they don't like what they see. It's like when someone looks at you and you're full of light and they're full of darkness, it might make them feel negative about themselves. Like they haven't done enough or they're not good enough. And it's an issue where society is using other people as mirrors, as reflection, even as gods, like thinking of him as a god. I think that's kind of an issue. Or raising people to stardom, to celebrity. That's an issue. Or giving people too much power in terms of politics. That's an issue. Because it's not that I'm against politics, but I'm against the idea of one person being more powerful. It's not fair to that person either. It's not realistic. I'm going to just try to pull out some more cards and figure out why. Why is this message relevant now? And I'm just talking about him as a historical figure and not as a religious icon or whatever. Because I don't connect with him as a religious icon. I connect with him as a historical figure. A really important one. And I don't mean any disrespect, obviously, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it. So we have here passage underneath, which is the death card. I mean, there's his literal death, right, which was terrible, but then there's also, like, maybe I need to pull out something about his death. Yeah, okay, there's secrets. The high priestess. So there were priests. I don't know if they're called priests. Let's see if I can find their names. Because I know the name for it, but I don't know it in English. So let's see if I can find it. Oh, it doesn't say. Yeah, serving as a priest. Okay, so that's what it was. There were these priests. They had like these special stones. I don't know why I remember learning about this. Like they had special crystals around like a necklace or something, or around their neck. It would signify like their priesthood. But I don't actually remember the significance of that. For whatever reason, that's something that stuck with me from childhood. And I was trying to say there were priests, but there were also priestesses. And I'm getting that, like, Mary Magdalene was one of these priestesses, but I'm also getting that, like, possibly these priestesses needed to be in hiding, or they needed to be secret about what they knew. Because they were women, they didn't have equal power, equal footing, equal say, but they were also not allowed to practice. Almost like witches, right? Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Like sorcery or something. They weren't allowed to be sorcerers. And so they were deemed uncouth. What am I hearing? I don't know. I don't even know if that's a word. Like just people who could not be trusted or could not be could not hold positions in society. So I got justice. Part of his story is a story of justice, Kundalini rising. So he was helping raise the Kundalini energy of the world, right, with this resurrection, with this judgment card. So helping raise the Kundalini energy of the world by being a light that shines in darkness, infinite potential. He was showing people their infinite potential, and that was triggering. He was only spreading messages of love, but yet there was something violent about that. Flame of surrender. Flame of surrender. What is card 12 in the tarot? So that would be before the death card, and we have the death card here underneath. Sorry, I'm like unscripted today. Hanged Man. I was thinking that when I saw surrender. Okay, yeah. So he was kind of, well, he wasn't hanged, but he was like a hanged man. I'm gonna pull out some books and then I'll do more oracles. Somehow that plantation ended our day's journey, for I could not shake off the influence of that silent scene. Back toward town, we glided past the straight and thread-like pines, past a dark tree-dotted pond where the air was heavy with a dead sweet perfume. White, slender-legged curlews flitted by us, and the garnet blooms of the cotton looked gay against the green and purple stalks. A peasant girl was hoeing in the field, white-turbaned and black-limbed. All this we saw, but the spell still lay upon us. What was the spell? The spell of dishonesty. Okay, I knew there was going to be something good here. Something to like hold on to. Let me go back. On we wind through sand and pines and glimpses of old plantations, till there creeps into sight a cluster of buildings, wood and brick, mills and houses, and scattered cabins. It seemed quite a village. As it came nearer and nearer, however, the aspect changed. The buildings were rotten, the bricks were falling out, the mills were silent, and the store was closed. Only in the cabins appeared now and then a bit of lazy life. I could imagine the place under some weird spell, and was half-minded to search out the princess. An old, ragged, black man, honest, simple, and improvident? I don't know what that word means. Told us the tale. The Wizard of the North, the capitalist, had rushed down in the 70s to woo this coy, dark soil. He bought a square mile or more, and for a time the field hands sang, the gins groaned, and the mills buzzed. Then came a change. Okay, so this is about this change that came. That was his important role. It wasn't that he was the change, it was that the change had already happened, and he was speaking in a way that was antagonizing to these people who were evil. The agent's son embezzled the funds and ran off with them. Then the agent himself disappeared. Finally, the new agent stole even the books, and the company in wrath closed its business, and its houses refused to sell, and let houses and furniture and machinery rust and rot. So the waters-lowering plantation was stilled by the spell of dishonesty, and stands like some gaunt rebuke to a scarred land. It's a silent scene, right? Somehow that plantation ended our day's journey, for I could not shake off the influence of that silent scene. It's a silent scene. There's silence around this. It's a secret. So there's corruption in his time. And he has to kind of I don't know that he has to do anything, but he's just being himself. Right. He's just being himself. He's not trying to respond to anything. He's just being his honest self. Okay, I'm getting the same message that I got in the last video, so I'm not going to read it, but it's about talking gibberish. It's about people just kind of talking without actually knowing what they're saying. Etheric suckers grab your power as you pass them. It depreciates you. At a deep subconscious level, they drag you away from life and closer to death. Okay, yeah. However, before you get too indignant, I have to tell you that we all pull energy from others occasionally, especially when you're tired or emotionally drained. As your energy sinks, it's human to reach for the nearest life raft. In answer to your question, how do I protect my energy, I've included a few ideas in Chapter 9. Meanwhile, let's return to silent power for the moment. People don't resonate silent power because for most, the overriding issue in life is security. The ego's function is to keep you focused on staying alive. Everyone is out and about trying to do just that. The issues of security dominate your psychology, everything you do, and much of what you say, it undermines your strength. So that is a secret power that he found in his lifetime, was that he was not concerned with security. Right? So there's like, I don't know, stories about him walking on water or things like that. And I remember my rabbi saying that actually at that time, a lot of people could walk on water. A lot of people could do things that were inexplainable by logic or by science. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he said. So like maybe there is a sense of not being so focused on worldly concerns or on surviving. And if you think of like biblical times, what was survival? So they probably had like some kind of exchange system. right? They probably didn't have money, but it was something of like an exchange. Like, you need this, like a barter system, a market where you could barter things. The other thing that I'm assuming, had was they didn't have a democracy, they didn't have politics, but they probably had some kind of talk. And there's a mention there of gibberish, people just kind of overhearing someone else say something and then spreading rumors, gossip around the town. And he had the hanged man energy, so he was really sacrificing himself. I don't know if he was aware of that, though. Let's see. I mean, we have the Ten of Swords underneath, so there's deep betrayal. And I think this came up in the last reading, which was what got me to do this reading in the first place, because I was seeing similarities to his story. He was actually protecting someone. He was protecting a woman. There's like an energy of fighting. He was actually kind of like a warrior. He was a fighter, and there was a woman. There's a lot of women, actually. There's a fire sign. There's the Empress. There's a star here, which I'm seeing as a woman, but it's also his energy. And then somewhere here, I think there was the Queen of Swords. So he was protecting a woman who was young, could have even been a child, but I don't know. I mean, maybe she was a child, but she was working. Either working the land or somehow working as a tailor. You see like a tailor here. She didn't have any like important role. I don't know if any woman did, but yeah. There's an unhealthy situation that she was drawn into. And he actually was stepping up as a protector. So why? Because of the magician. Oh, because he had special gifts. Okay. He had gifts that other people couldn't understand. So it's almost like the time of the Salem witch hunt, or whatever, like witch hunts that happened in the United States. I don't know where else they happened, but yeah, probably all over the world. So there's an energy there of like him having these special abilities. And I don't know. I don't really know. I was trying to figure out why that was an issue, but I don't actually understand. I mean, the only thing I can understand is that he was showing light in a time of darkness, and people were not able to take it. Like it was triggering for them, for their own darkness. They're seeing their own shadow with the devil. But I'm seeing Three of Swords and Seven of Coins. Seven of Coins is what we invest our time into, and Three of Swords is heartbreak. What does that mean? War. The heartbreak was war. It was fighting and conflict and war. And he wasn't seeing the results of what he was trying to preach, or what he was trying to do, or who he was trying to help. It was like he wasn't seeing the results of it. I think it was only after his lifetime that the messages that he was putting out were coming through. And so, I don't know. It's like he wasn't following the laws of survival, and he was seeing true abundance as an inside job. And so he was truly spiritual. He was truly connecting with the messages of God, but other people were more focused on like greed and avarice and like because it became very hard to detangle. There's like unconscious. The unconscious was so strong with the moon card. it became very hard for people to detangle religion. Like, what? Well, they didn't have a religion back then. I don't know what to call it, but their relationship with God was one in which they believed that they were chosen, but they didn't understand the responsibility that came with that. And so they were engaged in conflict over survival. And somehow this is a message that's repeating in our history, like in our day and age. He was on a journey here. It's like through the desert. He was on a journey with women as well. There's like a lot of women. And he was the one who was leading the way. He was speaking like the truth. But his journey was actually a very solitary one. More women. So all the women of the deck are here now. He had a very solitary journey. He was also kind of like, if you think of hitchhikers in today's day and age, that was kind of his story. Like, he was kind of like a hitchhiker. He didn't have any belongings, and he didn't have any place to be. And he was very poor. He was very impoverished. And he lived a solitary life, but a very deeply spiritual life. He had an inner strength that guided him through things. Like, that guided him. That was his saving grace. But it wasn't all good. And some of it was like he wasn't actually seeing things as they are. He was pushing aside the truth. Like, he wasn't looking at life as it is. He was trying to see things in an idealistic way. And, like, I don't know. He also had his own motivation to be successful or to be recognized. So he had some kind of self-importance, even though it all looked humble and like it looked like humility and humbleness, but there was also like an energy of power behind what he was doing. And make decisions from a place of intuition and power. So he wasn't so like meek as the Bible portrays him. And that might be why people had such an issue with him, because there was like a strong rebellious energy. I do see him as Pisces, but then sometimes Aquarius too. Like, there was a strong rebellious energy about him. And actually, Bob Marley, who I was talking about before, was a Aquarius. And the Sun, which is a fame card, there was an energy of fame. Like, before fame was a thing, he was like famous. And there was an issue with that. There was an issue with how he was leading his life in a way that persuaded others to join him without a lot of reasoning behind the things he was doing. But he was, like, as I said, he was very spiritual. He did have an inner depth. I don't think it was all innocent the way I'm seeing it here. It was like some of it was about power. But he was also trying to help someone out, and I don't know why. There was like heartbreak there, and it broke into a war. There's something about this woman's energy where she was like kept like a slave. And why was the Hierophant part of this? Because, okay, so he was a leader who was following his heart, and so he was rather emotional. and he fell in love with this woman, or with Mary, I don't know, or maybe many more, I don't know. But there was an energy of him being a leader, and also being like a wayfarer, like someone who just kind of is traveling about. Okay, and then there's an image that I just saw in this book that so this I also read in the last reading. There's a lot of the same messages from the past reading, which doesn't surprise me because it seemed to be connected. Much in you is still man, and much in you is not yet man, but a shapeless pygmy that walks asleep in the mist, searching for its own awakening. And of the man in you would I now speak, for it is he, and not your God self, nor the pygmy in the mist, that knows crime and the punishment of crime. Right, because he was seen as committing a crime. Oftentimes have I heard you speak of one who commits a wrong as though he were not one of you, but a stranger unto you and an intruder upon your world. But I say that even as the holy and the righteous cannot rise beyond the highest which is in each one of you, so the wicked and the weak cannot fall lower than the lowest which is in you also. There's something about his energy that wasn't entirely innocent or good, but motivated by some kind of other intention. And then the same energy was showing up in the people, but in a different way. It was like he was reflecting, it was like the yin-yang symbol, where there's a small dark spot inside of a big white, and there's a small light spot inside of the big dark. It's like he was showing people, he was reflecting back to them their evil by showing them light. But he also had this evil, like we all have this inside of us. We all have the dark and the light. And so the dark that he had in him was less noticeable, but it was also there. I don't know. Let's see if I can figure this out. I'm going to look it up. He was arrested and charged with claiming to be the king of the Jews, which was considered a betrayal of the king and punishable by death. Oh, wow. Yeah, so I was right about that, because he was placing himself as a leader, and he didn't have any laws. He was whipped, carried his own cross, hung between two thieves, pierced in the side, and given a crown of thorns to wear. It was that they were mocking him by putting a crown of thorns on his head. It's interesting that he's become like such an important person in a society that keeps repeating the same mistakes. Does that make sense? Okay, because we could learn from him, but it feels like we kind of continue. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered. Right? Remember, people are speaking without thinking, without knowing what they're saying. There's gibberish going on. For thought is a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings but cannot fly. Thought is a bird of space that in a cage of words may indeed unfold its wings but cannot fly. There are those among you, you only get half of the message when you're speaking. There are those among you who seek the talkative through fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. Right? So that's what he was doing. He was reflecting to people their shadow. And there are those who talk and without knowledge or forethought reveal truth, which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words, so they don't tell it. In the bosom of such as these, The spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the spirit in you move your lips and direct your tongue. And that's what he was doing. Let the voice within your voice speak to the ear of his ear. He lost his need to be part of society. For his soul will keep the truth of your heart as the taste of the wine is remembered when the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. It's like also reminding me of Sinead O'Connor. There's so many like these kinds of figures in society that are speak up about evil or speak up about things that are happening and then get prosecuted for it or get demonized in a sense of mental health as well. So his spirit was clean, and I guess the darkness I was seeing was that he was trying to spread light, but by way of fame almost. It was like he was making himself a leader, he was making himself a king, and that wasn't necessary. Not just from other people's perspective, but from like a God perspective. Like it wasn't necessary for him to place himself above others and then claim humility and humbleness and claim to be like a beggar. Like, oh, I'm just like a beggar, but he wasn't, and there was a sense of manipulation here. But he was full of light. His messages were truthful. There was just something that in the way in which he did things that was ego-based. So let's see if I can get any more, if I can pull more. It isn't fair and positively inhuman of you to abscond daily with the choicest leftovers and sell them secretly to build up your freedom fund. What? It isn't fair and positively inhuman of you to abscond daily with the choicest leftovers and sell them secretly to build up your freedom fund, then demand an equal division of the rest. If you no longer like this partnership, we can remain brothers in all other respects, but we can walk away from this connection of common ownership. For I see that this quarrel over our losses is proceeding disastrously and generating a monstrous discord between us. The other responded, by Hercules, congratulations on your fearlessness. Here you are, secretly stealing the leftovers on a daily basis, and you get in ahead of me on the complaint. I've been holding back for a long time, keeping my anguish to myself so that it wouldn't look like I was accusing my brother of theft. But it's good that we're having this conversation and looking for a way to fix our losses so that our fight doesn't end in fratricide. There is a loss of faith amongst brothers, amongst men. And he kept talking about everyone being brothers and sisters, like that kind of hippie message that he was spreading. It's not funny, but it like kind of, I'm just seeing how society keeps kind of coming back to these messages and then not knowing how to integrate it in a healthy way, in a helpful way. And maybe we're at a pivotal time in history where this can change. It's the people that we're closest to. It's again the hanged man message of sacrifice. But you know, so what is the message here? We're talking about kings, and kings feeling that their power is kind of taken away from them by this person, right? Who's claiming he is the king. I am the new king. By him claiming that, it's like he was trying to make the people question the way in which they were living their lives, the way in which they were going about things, the order, the social order that they had built. He was challenging a lot of the ideas, a lot of the norms, because he genuinely wasn't living according to those norms. But by setting himself higher, he was. And that's the issue. And then he wasn't actually a brother. It wasn't an equal brotherhood if he's saying he's the king. His message should have just remained that message. And then it wouldn't have spread so strongly. He wouldn't have had such a powerful impact. But it would have inspired people in a more gentle way. So it's now the choices, the decisions that we're faced with in life, and the difficulty to come to resolution, but through peace. I can find peace in every breath. Through peace, we can come to a place of connection, a deep connection that cuts all the boundaries, like dissolving all the boundaries. And there is a miracle card like that here somewhere. I dissolve all boundaries with love. And that's really the message. That's the true message to get from him. Not to worship him. And I'm sorry, yeah, I shouldn't say that because everyone's got their own beliefs, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And the repeat in our world right now is that we're finding peace. There's an option to find peace, but it's through a place of not knowing. It's not through a place of being decisive and saying this is the truth and this is the only truth. It's about, right, it's what I just said was wrong. It was wrong of me to say that it's not by worshiping him. It's about saying, okay, yes, we could. There could be that. That exists for some people. That makes sense for some people. It doesn't make sense for everyone. Coming to a place of peace is how we can then connect. And his death was an important step for this realization. And what I wanted to say before I went off that tangent was that we now have a world that's so obsessed with fame. And it's not just celebrity culture, it's like the internet and social media and YouTube. So like obsession with fame makes people forget themselves and try to be, there's just like a self-importance here. Or self-obsession, self-importance, and it actually drives away from the message. Okay. I don't know what else to share, what else to put into this. Just want to see, what did I just read in this book about? Yeah, it's about two brothers kind of accusing each other of theft. Trying to take leftovers and sell them secretly to build up their freedom fund, and demand an equal division of the rest. Division of power. And celebrity culture is our current, like, Achilles heel. And those are the people that are threatening our order as well. So the celebrities both have the power to change the way that this world is currently operating, but it feels that just by their method of, I don't know, their modus operandi, how they're showing up in the world, just by definition of being a celebrity, they're not really going to be able to contain this message. It kind of needs to come from people, from regular people. And why is this happening in society? It's to speed us forward. to help us evolve. Like, there's the world card, there's endings, there's closure, there's being able to move away from suffering and come towards peace. But this world is seeing so many changes happen that are kind of important for its evolution. Yeah, so I'll end it there.